A woman in my office once rewrote a text message 9 times before she sent it. 3 words. Sounds good, thanks. 9 drafts for 3 words that meant nothing was actually wrong. She wasn't texting a boss about a mistake. She wasn't apologizing. She was confirming a lunch date. And she sat in my mismatched armchair, a little embarrassed, and said, "I don't even know what I was afraid they'd see." That sentence has stayed with me for weeks. I don't even know what I was afraid they'd see. Because that's the thing about perfectionism nobody tells you when you're in the middle of it. It isn't about the sentence, or the report, or the way your kitchen looks before guests arrive. It's about being seen at all, being seen exactly, fully, and found lacking. If that lands somewhere in you, if you've ever reread an email so many times the words stopped meaning anything, you're in the right place tonight. I'm Sarah. I'm a psychologist. Before that, I was a physicist, which I promise will make sense in a minute, because the 2 fields have more in common than people think. Both of them are, at bottom, attempts to control what terrifies us by understanding it completely. Physics let me control chaos with equations. For a long time, in my own life, perfection was my equation. I want to tell you something plainly before we go anywhere else. This episode is not going to tell you to let go of high standards or just be kinder to yourself. You've heard that. It hasn't worked, or you wouldn't still be carrying this. What I want to do instead is take perfectionism apart, actually look at what it's built from, because I don't think you have a caring problem. I think you have a safety problem wearing a caring costume. We're going to talk about where that costume comes from, why your body defends it so fiercely, what it's quietly costing you, and what it might look like to walk around without it. Not sloppy, not careless, just unarmored, a little exposed, human. Stay a while. Tell someone this one helped if it does. Not because the algorithm needs it, but because somebody else is probably rewriting a text message right now too, and they should know they're not the only one. Let's begin. Here's where most conversations about perfectionism go wrong immediately. They treat it as the same thing as having high standards. It isn't. High standards ask, how can this be good? Perfectionism asks, how can I make sure nobody finds anything wrong with me? One is aimed outward, at the work. The other is aimed inward, at your worth. You can tell the difference by what happens when something goes imperfectly. A person with high standards feels disappointment, maybe frustration, and moves on. A perfectionist feels exposed, like a hidden truth about them just got confirmed. That's the whole episode, honestly, in one sentence. Perfectionism was never about the work. It was about proving over and over that you are allowed to take up space unpunished. I'll tell you a small thing about my own childhood. Not the big things, just a small one. My mother got sick when I was 12. Before that, our house smelled like bread. After, it smelled like rubbing alcohol and the particular quiet of a family trying not to worry out loud. Nobody sat me down and said, "Now you must be flawless." Nobody has to. Kids are excellent pattern recognizers. I noticed that when I got straight A's, nobody had to spend energy on me. When my room was clean, nothing else in the house needed managing. Being good, being seamless, became my contribution to a family that had no room left for one more problem. That's how it usually starts for people. Not with a villain, with a house that had too much going on, or a parent whose love felt conditional in ways too subtle to name, or a culture, a classroom, a team, a church, that rewarded flawlessness and punished need. You didn't choose this. You adapted to it. Perfectionism is not a character flaw. It's a strategy that worked once. Here's something clinically important, and I'll say it in plain language. Your nervous system doesn't file away that one time in 4th grade I was praised for a spotless project as a fond memory. It files it as data about how to stay safe. And the body doesn't update that data automatically just because you're 34 now and nobody's grading you. So when you send an email and immediately reread it 4 times, your heart rate isn't responding to the email, it's responding to something much older, a felt sense that mistakes cost you love or safety or belonging, and that the only way to prevent that cost is total control. This is why willpower doesn't fix perfectionism. You can't out-argue a nervous system with logic. "It's just an email" is true and also completely beside the point to a body that's convinced imperfection equals danger. I want to tell you about someone I've worked with. Details changed, of course, the way I always do. A man in his 40s, an engineer, brilliant, who came to me because his marriage was ending and he genuinely did not understand why. He'd fixed everything. The finances were flawless, the house projects were done to code and beyond. He never forgot a birthday, and his wife told him, in the session where it finally broke open, "I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to need me." He looked at me like I'd handed him a foreign language, because in his mind, being needed and being flawed were the same category of danger. If he showed a crack, he believed, he'd become a burden. So he never let her carry anything, and in trying not to be a burden, he made himself unreachable. Perfectionism doesn't just protect you from criticism. It quietly protects you from intimacy too, because intimacy requires being known, and being known requires being seen imperfectly. Let's name the false belief directly, because I think you already half know it. If I am flawless, I will finally be safe from judgment. It's a lie for a simple, almost mathematical reason. There is no version of flawless that satisfies the fear, because the fear was never really about the flaw. It was about whether you're allowed to be loved while imperfect, and you can't answer that question by removing every imperfection. You can only answer it by testing it, by being seen with the flaw still there, and finding out the roof doesn't cave in. Which is, I know, the most terrifying kind of homework I could possibly give you. Can I tell you something a little absurd? I have watched grown, accomplished, wildly competent adults spend 20 minutes deciding whether to use an exclamation point in a work email. 20 minutes, weighing whether one punctuation mark communicates too eager or not warm enough. We laugh about it in session sometimes because it is funny, in the way exhausting things become funny once you've survived them a little. The exclamation point was never the issue. The issue was a body standing guard at a door that closed decades ago. Here's what I want you to sit with, because it's rarely said out loud. Perfectionism doesn't just cost you time and peace, it costs you range. It narrows your whole life down to the activities where you're already confident you'll excel. You stop trying the pottery class. You stop raising your hand with the half-formed idea. You stop letting people see the rough draft of you, which means, over time, fewer and fewer people actually know you, only the finished, edited version. That's a quiet, specific kind of loneliness, being surrounded by people who are impressed with you and starved for people who actually know you. I want to be careful here, because I am not telling you to stop caring about your work, your parenting, your art. Effort isn't the enemy. The distortion is believing your effort is the price of admission for being acceptable as a person. Try this distinction on. You can pursue excellence from a place of already being enough, or you can chase perfection to become enough. Same behaviors, sometimes, from the outside, completely different nervous systems on the inside. One is expansive. The other is a hostage negotiation with yourself that never quite closes. So here is what I actually want to offer you, instead of a slogan. Perfectionism is not a high bar. It's a low ceiling dressed up as ambition. It says, stay small enough, controlled enough, flawless enough, and you'll never have to find out whether you're loved for who you actually are. It protects you from a test you're afraid to fail by making sure the test never happens. But you already know, somewhere, that the test happens anyway. Every relationship, every deadline, every ordinary Tuesday quietly asks it, can this version of you, tired, uncertain, a little rough around the edges, still be okay? And the only way to actually find out is to stop rehearsing and let someone see the third draft instead of the ninth. I think about that woman and her 3-word text message often. 9 drafts for "sounds good, thanks." I think about what it would mean for her, for you, to send the first draft instead. Not because it's braver, exactly, because the fear underneath it deserves to be tested against reality instead of just managed forever. You are not behind. You are not too much. You are not one clean version of yourself away from being safe to love. You are already the one being loved, in all your unfinished drafts, and the only thing perfectionism ever really protected you from was finding that out sooner. If tonight's episode felt like it was speaking to something you carry quietly, you might let someone else find it too. Pass it along, leave a word about which part landed. Subscribe if you'd like to sit with me again next time. Not because a video needs it, because somewhere, someone else is rereading a text message right now, and they should know they're not doing this alone. Send the first draft, see what happens. I'll be here either way.